just want to thank everybody who helped pull this together. There was a lot of people, Susan Weingartner, Deb Gordon, Johnny, everybody that spread the email, whatever you did, you were a part of it and made this all happen, and this energetic alchemy that we're all doing tonight. Anyway, I'd like to introduce Rachelle FIgueroa from the MorningStar Foundation. She's going to say a few words.
Good job. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for coming out. Yes, my name is Rachelle FIgueroa, and my spirit name is Oyate Wichuya Witawinyan. My father's tradition is Arapaho. My mother's Tarascan from Michoacan. I'm part of MorningStar Foundation. They call me the executive director, but it's not like really. It's a circle of women doing a lot of work for the community. And one of the things we do throughout the year is go to different events that are in alignment with our mission statement, which is to help preserve, protect, and support Indigenous elders, traditional ceremonies, protect sacred sites and burial grounds, and basically just keep the Native and Indigenous traditions alive. So in doing that tonight, we're really honored to be asked by Terry to come, and we brought our women's traditional drums, so we're going to sing a couple songs for you tonight to open the evening. But before I do that, we also have International Council of Grandmothers, and there's about 35 grandmothers from around the world that come together and share their wisdom with everyone. And tonight we have a special guest, Grandma Shar Silviera, who's come down from Vancouver, Canada, and she's with us tonight. And I wanted to ask her to please come up and open with a prayer for all of us.
Is it working?
Hello, my name is Seas Birds Medicine Councilwoman. I come from Tlakapan Nation. In other words, it's Lytton to the non-Native people. I've been urbanized for 50 years, so I'm trying to go back in the country. And it's so great to see everybody here tonight. And if you don't mind, I'll just say a prayer for the buffalo and for everyone else that lives on Mother Earth. Thank you. Y'all rise. And if you can you hold hands? Everyone ready? Don't forget the kids. All right. There we go. Okay, Creator, this is your granddaughter, Seas Birds Medicine Councilwoman. I'd like to thank you for bringing us to the sacred circle and to this territory that's far away from my home. A prayer for each and every one that are here today. And thank you, Mother Earth, for the nourishment that we will receive today. And for the kindness and from everyone that's on this territory. And we remember all those that are homeless. A prayer for each and every one of those. All over the world, there's homeless. Thank you for the buffalo that's here. He's to be the main source of our nourishment. Send prayers up for him and his family. Take it into your heart to send all the love you can to them, to this powerful, majestic animals that they were trying to wipe out from this territory. And same as us First Nations people, we're still here. Thank you, Creator, for Grandmother Moon. she reminds us women to be respectful of ourselves as life givers. Thank you to Father Sky, the great beyond, the great mystery. Thank you. I'm so humbled by all the greatness that I see around us with Mother, all that she provides for us. A prayer for all those that couldn't be here, your families, and the ones in hospitals and jails and institutions. Send them love and prayers. Thank you. Moment Kushem, all my relations.
We're going to start off with a song that we always sing to honor our elders, especially the grandmothers, but it's all female elders, which includes to us all our relations, which are also the buffalo, coyotes, the finned ones in the ocean, the wingeds in the air, all relations. So that's our first song we're going to sing. And then the second one we thought we should sing is the gathering song, which is why we're all together. We've come together tonight to support our four-legged relations and to help protect them so that they can live. And without the buffalo, we wouldn't be here. We made a contract with them many, many moons ago. And we're alive, so we need to continue our promise to them. So ladies, you want to come up?
Kanali. Good evening. That's Nawa for good afternoon, good evening. Ancient mother tongue of this hemisphere. Nice enough when you're called. Recognize the callings. I am actually the one who is deeply humbled to be present. I'm not sure whether you know or see, but this is the time of the scene. As our great grandmother from Canada spoke, she is that of the seen birds. I've seen many things these days now. If you look in the between, the room is filled. Every seat, every space. Ancestors are sitting. Ancestors are standing. And not just the two-leggeds. The song is called, and all creation has come. They come because of the song. The ancestor's song, and the ancestor's yours. Your ancestors are present. If you don't feel them or see them, they are here. I'm asked to let you know. They walk with you now, grandsons and granddaughters, the ones who've been chosen to be present in this time in the world of great change. The universe is moving in that place. I'm here to tell the story. So I brought the staff who uses me to tell the stories. In that place, the standing people carry the stories. Our tree nation, they've seen many things, they speak much. But in that, the story I've been asked to share is the one of the Tonka, if I may refer to our Buffalo Nation as the Tonka Nation, as told and spoken of with that of the Lakota people, the medicine people. And in that great way and great honoring, we'll speak with them and speak of them in an honoring way, with respect. I hope not to offend anyone. I ask Creator, Takashala, to use me as a vessel this moment to share the stories that have been shared for many, many elders of generations down, so that the stories can be told. For it is again the time of storytelling, if you don't know that. We all have a story. We have wonderful stories to tell, especially our children now. They're the ones who will be holding the stories next, for the time in the world has now come to change. So in that, begin the story of Tonka. And in that story, as given to me by the beautiful Terry, and a wonderful way, and a grandmother of all time has come, the grandmothers who sit in the room, the Divine Feminine has carried us as the Man Nation to be able to tell and share these stories around the fire. So if you don't feel the fire, let me ask you if you would close your eyes for a moment. Take yourself in a place long, long ago. You're sitting in a field. Large meadows, hills behind, streams rolling through. Let your heart eyes see all creation. The hawks above, the crickets between the blades of grass, the hummingbirds, the butterflies, and the great Tonka Nation behind. In a wonderful way, say hello in your own way. Say hello to what the storyteller of which I am sharing the story, Miguel Rivera, said. Say hello to the original people. He called them the OPs. Say hello to the OPs. Waste! Waste, Tonka! Waste! How are you? These are the original people. These are the relatives. And as told, he had something that I wanted to lay before the nations of people then. You may now open your eyes that you already have greeted that in another time. Because it's time to walk between dimensions. It's a magical time in the world now. And in that way, the elder Rivera had sat with another teacher, Tomas Manacetas, I believe, if I have the name right, who shared with him something that I would like to lay down as part of getting to the story, as it may be said. So with that, He said that long, long ago, when your ancestors upon this land, or those ancestors that walk with us, did speak among themselves, they had a knowing. They had a knowing that when the Europeans came, that they brought with them a incorrect set of beliefs, I believe is the way he's put it. Incomplete. That's probably a nice way to put it. In that, he then moves as saying that he sat for about 25 years before. I'm not sure what time this is, but it sure seems to be a while back. 25 years before, he sat with a Paiute elder, grandfather. And this Paiute grandfather, up near Owens Valley, if you don't know the place, the Pomo people, actually spoke about this grandfather as he sat with him, as he called him grandfather and teacher, spoke about his great-great-grandfather, spoke about the time when these people came. And he said they all knew that what they brought was not really any goodness. Things were not going to be right. But at the same time, they still had to meet these people from across the waters. But when he said to this great-great-grandson, who is now the grandfather, he said, I'm going to share with you, grandson. He says, you must remember the land. Remember the land because it's everything that we have known. It's who we are. It's what we've come from. All our food, all our clothing, all that we are comes from this land. He says, and then the grandfather told him, he says, and when the time comes, and it seems as though we have forgotten the way, and things aren't right, he says, you must return to the land. Come back to the land if you have forgotten the ways, and sit with the land. Come and be with the land. Come and let the land know that you have forgotten, and learn. And you again, the land will teach you who you are and who you shall be, and you will remember these things. So, as we are sitting with the land today, the land of the ancestors, this most beautiful place called Froggys, it shows you that the universe has a great sense of humor, doesn't it? Quantum leaps that we can take between dimensions of time and spirit, and share a story, and have the children sit with us today. They can listen to these stories. So as the story comes with the land, this is the story that's been told. And I am here to help share, to connect the circle tonight. As we sit around the fire is always with us. Always with us. But the story is, there was a time when all the creatures came together and they knew how to communicate with one another. They understood each other. They knew how to play together. They supported one another. And at that time, the land was restless. The land shook. Anybody read about the 6.4 earthquake today? Yesterday? In Trinidad or Greece? Is the land restless today? Is the land shaking today? Yes, it is. But in that great time, all the creatures came to a conference. That's what we call it. But we know that they came to a gathering. So we had cricket, we had ant nation, we had gopher, we had salmon, lizard, we had tonka, wolf, bear. Any spirits here? 25. Any totem people here that know these relatives? I believe the room is filled. So all the creatures came together, and guess what? They spoke about the restlessness of the land, and they felt the land shaking beneath them. And as they spoke, they decided it was time to do something. It was time, they said, and they came to a deal. Creatures made a deal, as the story goes.
So like we got too many people on the
And the story is, and the deal was, that every creature had a responsibility with our nation, that every creature or nation would take care of the land for an entire generation. Now, back in those times, we don't know exactly what time that means of generation, but they stepped up. Cricket took it, Ant Nation took it, Butterfly Nation, Hummingbird, they all took their generation time and took care of the land. We call her Mother Earth. All around. And she settled down. And then it came time for Tonka. Tonka stepped up and fulfilled the responsibility of each generation before her. And then looked around. Was the other generation coming? Tonka stayed a while longer. And no other generation showed up. Tonka stayed some more. Whatever generation was supposed to show up, the story says the deal had been made so long ago, that whatever generation was supposed to come after Tonka had probably forgotten to show up. And the story is that maybe that generation is us. Maybe we have forgotten to stand next to Tonka, who has stood for thousands and thousands of years now and given so much to keep us on the land. But now Tonka is gone. At one time, piled high from all the shootings and extermination, and all the skulls that lie in the red of Mother Earth. But we are now here. We have now come. And I ask tonight, is it a time of remembering? Is it a time of remembering what we have forgotten?
You don't know what it's for?
To honor the Tonka? Tell the Tonka we remember now? It is now our turn. It's time to come. Time for everyone to come. We live in a world, as the elders have told, the prophecies, as the great Tonka spirit across this turtle island has come. As the elders knew that we would be living in a time of confusion and turmoil, crisis. We had forgotten how to get along with each other, like all the creatures did in the very beginning when they came together and knew how to play together, knew how to talk amongst each other. Today, we are in the midst again of a restless land. A land that shakes. We've forgotten how to communicate again. On the brink of war in one place, or woman nation, our sacred woman nation, who's been ravaged by the oil pipelines that run down Turtle Island to other countries with rape, pillage, prophecies that go beyond the beautiful story of creatures, creation, speaks now of sacred time. Mother Earth is crying, creatures are dying, and who now rises from the ashes of the crisis and the turmoil and confusion? Who rises now? What other story is carried now from the fire? Story told from the fire, like a phoenix, the great thunderbird rises from the ashes now. And in that story, warriors from all the four directions come. Warriors awakening. Not just red, now black, now yellow, now white, from all the four different directions of Mother Earth and Father Sky. To stand with the creation. And the name of that tribe is the Rainbow Warrior Tribe. And the songs of the Rainbow Warriors are now beginning again. In 1988, an elder called Floyd Westerman Red Crow at a Rainbow Warrior Festival in Taos, New Mexico, spoke and sang a song about the Rainbow Warrior Tribe. And he spoke about the spirit heroes. And in that place, he said we maybe had 20 years from then before the greenhouse gases and the burning of all the trees would take us out. It's been 20 years since. And if anyone hadn't read the Times in Los Angeles this past week about the climate change and all the scientific things that are saying we have maybe 25 to maybe 100 years left with the greenhouse gases and the tree nation being removed. So, have we been given a reprieve? I believe the universe is merciful, filled with a great love, a love of woman, a love of woman, who knows how to love greater than man, but we must still learn how to do that. Powerful love that goes beyond humanity, that goes into the universe, greater beyond ourselves. Woman holds this, and in that great love, they hold the great healing, the power of forgiveness. There can be no healing without forgiveness. And now we can forgive one another. We can ask forgiveness from our creature brothers and relatives. Ask forgiveness to Tonka. We had forgotten, but now remember. And in that forgiveness of a great heart, we can then again begin to heal. And in the healing, we can begin to love each other. No greater gift than the power of love. We must learn again. Before physical healing can take place, a spiritual healing must occur. So as Spirit Nation people, it is time that we dance tonight, we sing tonight, we pray in between all the joy and the laughter, and hugging, and kissing one another. Let us embrace the circle of life today as we ask Tonka, the great people who've taken care of the Tonka Nation for all this time, the Buffalo Field Campaign people, rise and said, we didn't forget. We are here. We will be in the snows with you and on the land. Let us join them together tonight. Let us join our offering of prosperity with whatever you can separate from that thing they call money and donate. And at the same time offer our hearts and our support, as all creation did long before, to keep us from hurting ourselves and bring us back to a place of prosperity. At the Rainbow Warrior Circle tonight, search in your hearts. If you've got the rainbow in you, a butterfly, a grasshopper, a frog, a wolf, a bear, you are part of the Rainbow Warrior Circle that lives in you. And ask the children. They see the rainbow all the time. It is time that we see the rainbow again. So let us live in the laughter of the Cloud Nation, of the Land Nation, the Water Nation, and the Fire Nation that we all carry. And let us rejoice tonight in love with one another. Aho, matakiasa. Great blessings upon you all. Bless one another tonight. Share your medicine and come and let us dance. Let us dance as in the fire circle of the lodge. A firekeeper, sun dancer said, "It is time in the world now, not only to pray harder in the lodge, but when you come out of the lodge, dance harder. Sing harder. Be harder. And in that way, we will begin the healing, if not from Froggys, from someplace we will, as we move from Froggys out into the world. We shall be, again, the circle of life. Aho.
Buffalo Calf Pipe Bundle. I would like to give a wopala thank you and the celebration, a great thank you to the U.S. Senators, and I name all of them, who named that from here on, every year, every first day of every Saturday in November will be a day of celebration recognizing the National Bison Day. Wow. And the first one this year will be November 2nd, 2013. And that notice came right down here for everybody.
Hello, my name is Goodshield, Aguilar. I'm Lakota and Yaqui. This is Mignon Geli. She's Warai, which is actually a tribe in the Philippine Islands. But we're both from California. I was born and raised in somewhere in California, a couple of different places, but I live up in the Redwoods now, up on the Hoopa Reservation. I live by the Trinity River and the Klamath River, pretty powerful place to be. Anyway, I'd like to open up with an honor song here, in honor of, we did an event a couple nights ago in Nevada City, also by a big, powerful river called the Yuba River. And they've been having issues since the turn of the century with their salmon, but they just started doing this calling back the salmon ceremony probably about 10 years ago or less, and the salmon have been coming back. And then Bill Jacobson, the man who is involved with bringing back the salmon ceremony, he talked about how our connection with these relatives of ours, like the buffalo, are no different. How back before all the modern way of being in this world, with this connection, that part of it, every ceremony we would ask for certain things to come back, whether it was the rain, all the elements, and that included our relatives, the ones who gave their lives so that we would continue. But it wasn't until they started calling back the salmon in that area that they literally started coming back, and even somehow managing to get around dams, which was pretty amazing. But I'm going to sing this song in honor of the salmon and the buffalo.
Hey,
tried to settle and rest for a while. I sat to learn of night and forgive the day of its transgressions. I felt the voice of night tap at my shoulder and beckon me to listen to the wisdom of ages. My friend, night said, I have watched you for some time now, and I have seen you try to clear a troubled mind. Nothing is different than it was 10,000 years ago, yet nothing is the same. Nothing is the same. The air you breathe, I have breathed so many times before. The wind that tugs your hair, I bring along for company. And the moon that lights your face, I have studied for so many years. When one cannot see, one sees the best of all. When one cannot give, one loses the most of all. In bleak solitude, I have witnessed what no man shall ever see, but I am blind. Down this dirt road. Didn't really know how he got there or where he was even going. And beside him was his dog. So he just kept walking down that road for many miles. Later on down that road, he realized that that dog had been dead for about 20 years. So he realized, I must be dead too. So he kept walking. Him and his four-legged friend. They finally came to this fork in the road. The fork to the left was the dirt road he'd been following. The fork to the right was paved in gold. So he went right to see where it went. It finally came to this big white fence, the big golden gate. And there was a man in a white robe waiting at the gate. He walked up to that man in the robe and he asked, "Excuse me, sir, but me and my friend here, we've been traveling for many miles. I was wondering if we could have some water." The man with the robe looked at him and down at his dog, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'll have my servants bring you some at once, but I'm sorry, there's no dogs allowed here." The man looked at the man in the white robe and back at his four-legged friend. And then he asked the man, "What do you call this place?" The man in the white robe answered, "This is heaven." The man looked down at his four-legged friend again and back at the man in the white robe, and he said, "Well, thank you, but I think we're just going to keep walking." So he turned around, walked back to that fork in the road, and followed that fork to the left. He walked for many more miles, till finally that road came to a big wide space. Trees were everywhere, birds were flying, butterflies were dancing. He walked until he came across a man sitting under a tree, and he was reading a book. He walked up to that man and he asked, "Excuse me, sir, but me and my friend here, we've been walking for many miles. I was wondering if we could have some water." The man put his book down and smiled. "Oh, sure. Over there by that tree, you'll find an old water pump. There should be a bowl there for your friend too." So he walked over to that tree, and sure enough, there was a water pump there. So he filled that bowl for his four-legged friend, and then he himself drank water as well. He felt very grounded, connected, like he belonged. ran down the road. He said that that was heaven. The man with the book laughed. Oh, you mean that place with the big white fence, big golden gate and golden road? Nah, that's hell. And the man asked, but doesn't it anger you that they use your name that way? And the man with the book answered, oh no, we're glad that they're there. They filter out all those people who would leave their best friends behind. Dog and his human. We're going to start out with an instrumental here. This one's called Zulu Warrior.
Feel free to dance.
music for almost 10 years with a man named Floyd Redco Westerman. He wrote a lot of songs during the, when the American Indian movement were first forming. He was good friends with Vine Deloria Jr., who was a really well-known native. He had a PhD, and he was very knowledgeable in the sciences and culture, and has a lot of, I'd say a lot of his writings were controversial, mainly because they challenged the status quo and the history books that we were all force-fed. So, he passed away as well, Vine Deloria Jr., pretty recently, but he's a really inspirational person. And Floyd Redco Westerman was, just equally as inspirational to me. I had the great honor of playing music with him for almost 10 years. I played bass for him and, played different events, different fundraisers, and I like to play his music once in a while. So I feel like I really want to play this song by him. It's called Holy Man.
Down and dirty.
place called South Dakota. It's the home of Sitting Bull. He was branded a redskin savage. He made the clouds invent his land that day, but his dream of beauty that they could not burn away.
show for free. Campaign's been in existence for about 16 years now. I've been doing this roadshow every fall for 10 years now. This is Mignon's first complete roadshow she's done. She's done roadshows with us in the past, but just here and there whenever she had the time. But this year she took the time to do the whole tour. This is week number 4, I think. And anyway, yeah, we're still on the road, still trying to save the last wild, genetically pure buffalo left on the continent. And you're going to learn more about that in just a couple minutes. But I'd like to introduce a very special man. He's been in the field for 16 years with these buffalo. You know, he's done so much. I can't even start, to tell you like how much he's done for these buffalo, and he's still out there doing this after 16 years. Just being on the front lines, doing what he can, and helping to spread the word. He's the co-founder of the Buffalo Field Campaign, and his name is Mease.
Monday, a week, or not quite a week ago, but a week from this tomorrow, one of our spiritual advisors, Jimmy St. Godard, this very visionary warrior from the Blackfeet Nation up north of us, went to Yellowstone National Park, and he went there with some PLC brothers and sisters, and he went there with the intention to say a prayer for the buffalo. He was met at the front gates with the rangers and their military-type attitude and said, "Sorry, Yellowstone Park is closed." He says, "No, I'm here to express my First Amendment right, my treaty rights, to go into this park and perform a prayer for these buffalo so that you won't kill so many this year." And they said, "Well, the park is closed. We're going to have to check on our higher-ups and see what we can do about this." Because the Park Service is very similar in the way it's run to the military. All the higher-ups tell all the lower downs what to do and how to do it, and there isn't much questioning involved in between. So they go back and they call their higher-ups back at Mammoth, and they're like, "Oh, you better let that Native guy in there. He really does have treaty rights and First Amendment rights to go in and say the prayer, but don't let any of those white guys in with them. Just go back." beautiful words you were saying tonight. He said, no, I come from the Rainbow Tribe, and these are all my brothers and sisters, and you go back and tell your higher-ups that that's not okay, that I can just go in. All of us are welcome because we're all part of this tribe of the Buffalo Nation. So he ran back, and they talked to their bosses, and sure enough, 20 minutes later, they came by, and they got a cop escort all the way in 35 miles to say their prayer for the buffalo. So this is our 16th year of standing in the field protecting the buffalo, and obviously being in the front lines for that long, you start to question your antics, your tactics, your worth, you know. Are we making a difference? Has anything changed? We're still killing buffalo. This is so sad. And last summer, I got my question answered for me when I was in this very, very time of doubt. It was about July 2nd, and this big bull buffalo decided he was not going to listen to the state of Montana and stay inside Yellowstone National Park. That he, no matter what the rules, regulations, or laws say, is a buffalo and has to be a buffalo, and nothing in the world can ever change that. So being a buffalo, I mean, a lot of times we hear these are the Yellowstone buffalo, they belong to Yellowstone. Well, the truth of the matter is, this is the last place the buffalo survived. It's the last place they hid from us so that we didn't kill every single one of them. So the ideal habitat for Yellowstone buffalo is continent North America. It's not Yellowstone. Yellowstone is a high elevation plateau that gets the most snow, and it's horrible habitat year-round for animals. And so the buffalo are screaming, let us back to the plains, let us back to the people, let us do our job. And so these buffalo, this big bull decided in the middle of summer, well, I'm going to take a walk outside the park. And he came to the neighborhood above ours, which is about 7-8 miles outside of Yellowstone. And in his path, he came across this little teeny obnoxious Chihuahua dog that for some bizarre reason thought it could take on this 2,000-pound buffalo. Well, as you can imagine, this little Chihuahua learned how to fly. It was not killed, it was a little injured and humbled. The animal lived. But of course, as soon as this happened, a phone call was made directly to the Montana Department of Livestock. Please come get this rogue buffalo out of our neighborhood that has dared to gore my little Chihuahua. And so, sure enough, they sent out the troops, but that usually takes about 20 minutes. And in that time, this buffalo dropped down the hill and came onto our property. Now, for the last 12 and a half years, I lived in a teepee year-round in the Yellowstone ecosystem. Of course, all my native brothers would come out and tease me. They're like, you know, Mike, we have enough sense to migrate out of this ecosystem in the winters and follow the buffalo herds. And I'm like, well, we now have these giant wood-burning stoves that, you know, make this even a possible endeavor. So, any rate, I'm getting a little older, and then with that old age, I've moved into a cabin. And so, of all places this buffalo could have gone to hide from the cops and everyone, he came right into my yard and sat down right underneath my kitchen window. So then the circus begins. Finally, the Montana Department of Livestock show up in their own car. The Fish, Wildlife, and Parks officer shows up in his own car. And the Gallatin County Sheriff shows up in his own car. And they're looking all through the valley for this rogue buffalo that dared to toss a Chihuahua outside of Yellowstone Park. So finally, the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks official comes up to our property and stops, and I go out and meet him, and I'm like, hey, Jim, we obviously know each other. We've been harassing each other for decades on the field. And I was like, what's up? He's like, Mike, you're not going to believe this. There's a rogue buffalo out. He went up to this neighborhood here, and he tossed a dog up into there, and we've got to find this buffalo. Have you seen him? I was like, yes, Jim, I did see that buffalo. And he came right across our yard and he kept going. And I bet you if you go down valley, you'll probably find that guy. Well, hours went by and finally 3 hours came by and they left. They couldn't find this buffalo. And not 20 minutes after they leave, this big bull gets up out of my backyard, goes out and walks down valley right where I had said he was. And then about dusk, he comes walking back through our property again, but he goes right up to the housing area where he had thrown the chihuahua. So we were a tad bit nervous for his safety, so we followed him up with video cameras to make sure nothing happened to this guy. Well, sunset came and gone, and the next morning we found this buffalo had walked 2 miles closer to Yellowstone Park, and they came out with an ATV and a horse to try and catch this big mighty bull. And he ran across Highway 287, jumped in Hebken Lake, swam across the lake, and ran up Horse Butte, and has not been seen again to this day. Those of you that don't believe this story, which I can understand, I didn't get the chihuahua getting tossed, but the rest is on video on our website if you ever want to check it out. So, I mean, we all know, I don't want to go too into depth tonight because this is obviously a very glorious night that we're sharing music, fun, drums, and I don't want to depress everyone all night because I think we need to be on that positive note, as you so well know. You know, all too often we don't celebrate life enough. We don't celebrate getting together with a handful of people that really care enough to do something in today's world, to make a change. So the Buffalo are teaching us, basically, that everyone is just as important as one another. And in the Buffalo world, they have leaders, but their leaders aren't to protect or represent the 1% of the people that give them all their money. The Buffalo's leaders is to get them to land where all the buffalo can survive. Where that their job is to make sure that the entire herd survive. And in the buffalo world, everyone is just as important as everyone else. And that's what makes it a beautiful thing. When you watch them in the thick winter snows of Yellowstone in the winter, and they're walking through 4 and 5 feet deep snows, and they'll walk in single file. And every step is an effort, every movement that they make is hard. But then when the front one gets tired, he or she will step to the side and the entire procession will go by and they'll hop in at the very end where it's the easiest and all the work has been done. And they're always thinking of that. We're out there sometimes and we see the hunt go on and we watch a buffalo get shot and fall down on the ground. And a lot of times those hunters won't ever be able to get near that buffalo for 1 to 2 hours because they have to have their own ceremony. And first they'll form a circle and they'll try and pick their brother out or sister up off the ground and they'll realize that they have passed. And then they'll form a circle and won't let anyone near it until they're done saying goodbye to their brother and sister. I really think that humanity can learn a lot from this sacred relationship. And I think we all have that in us. You know, we often honor, I mean, to me, the visions and the wisdoms of the First Nations and as we like to label them from the white world, the pre-Cambrian cultures, you know, that had that connection to the earth, to the sky, to the sun, to the moon, to the animals, to everything that was a part of our life. And what they don't tell us is us white guys had that too. We were, you know, from the pagan nations back in the early, and they wiped us out too, because for us to be able to treat the earth the way we treat it today, we had to remove the compassion for that earth. And we had to make us think about heaven and things like that, as opposed to living in heaven and fighting our lives to protect that heaven, to leave our children something that we're proud of when we go. I think you all get the point, you know? This is something that's been going on since time immemorial. It's all based on the disease that the buffalo were given by, like, what I call the holy cow.
And now we're worried about the disease being transmitted back. It's never happened in the wild. They live in harmony together in Teton Park for the last 50 years and have never transmitted the disease. The elk have transmitted the disease and made all 3 states lose their brucellosis-free status, which is what they're worried about in their cows, but yet elk are not mentioned once. So this is a sole prejudice placed on one species, basically, and it's all funded by you and I, the taxpayers of the U.S., for the benefit of one sole interest, and that's the livestock industry in the state of Montana. When they don't hunt them or just ship them off to slaughterhouses, they keep a population cap of 3,000 animals. And I think the most important thing to learn about the Yellowstone herd is there's 500,000 bison in the United States now. You can see them in every state. You can go to Golden Gate Park and see them in there. But of these 500,000 bison, less than 10,000 are genetically pure and not what we call beefalo. All those other ones are beefalo that you see. And you can't physically look at them and tell the difference. They all look like buffalo. They all keep that visual look. But their genetic makeup is what makes the Yellowstone herd so unique. So of these less than 10,000 genetically pure wild buffalo that we have left in the world, the only ones that the 4,000 that live in Yellowstone are the only ones that haven't been caged in, grass-fed, and domesticated. They're the only ones that wander, and that's why they need your help, because when they do wander, when they do go out to our state we live in, Montana, they're not even considered wildlife. They're considered an animal in need of disease control, and they have no protections or anything. And these are the world's last bison. They aren't the state of Montana's, and they aren't the state of Montana's cattle industry to tell us how to do it. So when they're not shooting them or rounding them up and shipping them off to slaughterhouses, they do this horrible thing and it's called hazing. Now, hazing by definition is moving something from where it wants to be to where you want it to be in a forceful fashion. So in this process that they do, and we're talking about buffalo that have just survived the Montana winter, and they're on their last legs, they've used all their energy, they're coming out of the park to eat the first green grass shoots, the moms are about ready to burst or just did have their babies, and their introduction to life is running back into the park up to 15 miles a day. And this is done with your tax dollars using helicopters, ATVs, four-wheel drive trucks, horses, basically anything but their feet. And obviously, this causes a lot of injuries, and you can't use that kind of weaponry and basically show up to the lush Yellowstone ecosystem and selectively pick one species to harass. Obviously, a helicopter impacts the entire ecosystem, and Yellowstone is one of the last fully intact ecosystems we have in the lower 48 states. So basically, we feel this is going on mainly because people just don't know about it more than anything. And so, in our history, we've been on every major network in the world. We even had our own little fancy reality TV show done about us. But basically, you still don't reach people in today's world when you depend on the media that is also by this 1%. We have to become our own media. We have to become our own spokespeople. We have to gather like this to tell our stories to each other so that we know what's going on in everyone's land and how we can help each other. We need to utilize the wisdom of one campaign, how we can use what works there in other campaigns and start to utilize our unification. Because when you look at our country, really, if nothing else, the Occupy movement did this most beautiful thing, and it made us talk about 99% of us, and how we're all 99%. Well, we spend a lot of time, and I'm talking from the environmental groups, from the animal rights groups, dividing and conquering our own base. That we look for more problems within ourselves than we do with the 1%. And we aim too much of our focus dividing and conquering each other in our other ways. And really, we just need to find a way to pull the minorities together, because once the minorities are the majority, we can take this country back and get it right on
sometimes other groups will grab our stuff and maybe compromise what our beliefs are, but if they're still telling the story of saving the buffalo, they're still telling the story to save the buffalo. And I'm not going to spend my energy or my wisdom or my anything on trying to correct those people, because even if they're not doing it the way I believe it's supposed to be right, they're doing something that's trying to be right. And so our energy needs to be put on our 1% of those people so that we can make a change in this world and not spend our time bickering amongst one another. It's time we've come together and can save these sacred species like the buffalo, like the salmon out here, like all the animals. I know a lot of people fight for a lot of animal rights in this room, but let's remember, it's not about us, it's not about me, it's about what we're leaving for the kids, it's about what we're going to leave here on this earth to be remembered by. And if we're going to just bicker amongst ourselves, I don't think we're doing that in the right way. So the last thing I want to ask everyone tonight, Terry made these very beautiful little memorabilia things, so if everyone would just take one of those to remember this evening, I think they're very beautiful. And like I was talking about, creating your own media, being your own media, depending on yourselves and your allies and your friends to help spread the word to save the herd, like we like to say. So I'm asking everyone tonight if they could take a handful of these newsletters with them, share them with their friends, put them in coffee shops, put them in doctors' offices, put them anywhere you can think, because the more people learn about this, the more people can understand about this, that's when we're going to start to create the change. We also have a petition in the back to get the Yellowstone buffalo listed as an endangered species under the distinct population segment of the Endangered Species Act.